Welcome to Cardinal Territory, a special girls edition. I'm Katie Wu. That is Alexa Datt. We are so excited to be here with you as we reach the official halfway mark of spring training. Time flies when you're having fun. Alexa, thank you so much for coming on. I'm really happy you're here.
Katie, this is going to be so fun. Thank you so much for having me. And first of all, your hosting skills, because I've been watching the podcast, obviously, you're crushing it, girl. And I can say that from experience, like watching you evolve as you host this podcast. It's been so fun. And you're like, your talent level is exponentially increasing with every pod. So keep it up.
Oh,
I'm so
thank
proud.
you so much. I'm impressed. You, our girl Danny Wexelman, Michelle Smallman, St. Louis girls, you guys just do an incredible job and make me better. So love that about you. But let's talk a little bit about you, because one of the main reasons I wanted to bring you on the show, not just because of your excellent insight as the host and reporter for FanDuel Sports. Oh my gosh, I'm going to work on this. FanDuel Sports Network Midwest. There we go.
There you go.
Yes, for the Cardinals and Blues, is because you made a little bit of history a couple weeks ago. Did you not?
I did. Yeah. Look at me in this photo. Oh my gosh. I was riding all the emotions, Katie. I was excited. I was nervous. I felt like, a big girl, but kind of like also a child at the same time, fulfilling a dream. I felt like I was carrying the dreams of so many other young girls on my back too. It was a lot in that moment, but it honestly, to me, it was one of those experiences that it's more about what it's going to do down the road for other people and for young girls who are watching, to be able to hear the voice of a female play-by-play and go like, oh, hey, look, I can do that too. Because think about it, growing up, I mean, we listened to Brent Musburger and Joe Buck and Bob Costas, and to me, I love athletes, right? And I respect them and the work that they put in, but my heroes are broadcasters. They always have been. I like stand for them, and I get really nervous meeting them because they're the true, to me, people that I look up to and that I want to be when I grow up. So the fact that I was able to sit in that chair, it was kind of like a big full circle moment for me from when I was a little kid.
I love that. And I mean, it's so important, as you and I both know, to have some representation in baseball, and for you to be the first woman in St. Louis Cardinals history, a very long history with this organization, mind you, to be the lead play-by-play announcer. How surreal was that when you got the call that this was going to be an opportunity for you?
I came to St. Louis with the idea of working for a legendary franchise in baseball. Obviously, we know the Cardinals' pedigree. It's, up there on par with any organization in baseball. And so for me to come from New York to St. Louis, I made the decision that, working alongside the Cardinals, working for the network that airs the Cardinals games was going to be a pretty, big deal for me. And when I was hired here by my boss, his mentality was, we want you to be growth oriented here, right? There are different opportunities that we're going to provide you with as your time progresses here in St. Louis. And, this had kind of been a small conversation that grew into a bigger one as one of those opportunities. And he said, we're going to check in with the Cardinals, see what they think, obviously. And once we got their blessing, Larry, my boss, was like, hey, you're good to go. We're going to give you 4 games this spring. And my mind was kind of blown. I mean, I knew that this was a thought process from my early time here, but also at the same time, it's like you never really know what kind of opportunities you're going to get. You just got to kind of make the most of them when you get them. And getting that call, I mean, I freaked out. I was with my boyfriend and his family in Australia, and I kind of freaked out in the car. I called my parents. They were super happy for me, my brother too. And it was just a surreal experience to be able to say, like, this is something that, I've thought about doing for a really long time. The fact that I'm finally going to be able to do it. Okay, big girl stuff.
It was big girl stuff. And I remember seeing you walk onto the field at Roger Dean the morning before your broadcast, cool, calm, collected, rocking the heck out of that polo. We actually, I think, need to have a separate conversation. Women that work in sports, we need more than just a polo. Okay, we need more variety. So if you're listening out there, every sports company in the world, give us more options. No more polos. But you looked great. And it was so great to see, like, not just as someone that I respect very much and someone that, even before we worked in the same market, I was like, yeah, this girl rocks. But now as a close friend of mine, to just see you walk up and not look rattled at all. And I'm not going to speak for you on what was maybe going on under the surface, but I think like the biggest tell of where you are as a professional and how you were going to crush this opportunity was 5 minutes before you're on air. You scare me in the press box because you're crouching behind my seat, just eating an apple, casual, like, hey, what are you doing? And I'm like, what are you doing? Shouldn't you be on the air? And it was just, that's when I knew you were going to be fine. What was that when the game started, what was it like? And what was the lead up with Brad Thompson? And did he tell you anything, give you any advice?
Little did you know, by the way, that was the first time I'd eaten in like 4 days, that apple. Yeah, exactly. No, it was a situation where I called as many people as I could. I got Jenny Kavanaugh on the phone. She's a really good friend, and got advice from her. And she was like, listen, I've messed up before. You're going to mess up. Just keep going. You've earned this opportunity. This is for all the young women out there. Like, obviously that's not to tell you that there's a lot of pressure, but this is a situation where like we're women and we, deserve this representation, and representation matters. So, go out there and absolutely have a ball. I called Chip Carey because he is, to me, the legendary announcer for the Cardinals. And I'm like, what advice do you have for me? Help me out. What do you got? And he basically said the same thing that Joe Buck told him, which is like, in your mind, you're going to build it up like this big thing. It's going to happen. And then it's going to be over, and you're going to go back to your everyday life, and everything is going to go back to normal, right? And that's exactly how it played out. Chip was 100% correct. I built up as this big thing in my mind, but once I got on the mic and once I sat down next to Brad, who I've worked with for a couple of years now, I felt so comfortable, and he put me at ease. And he, as everyone was saying, just lean on Brad because he's the guy who's been there and been doing this for several years, and he's so great at what he does. Make sure that, you lean on him, and he'll help you through any of the tough innings. And we did just that. It was a rough spring training game, to be honest. It wasn't one of those like easy, 2-hour, 15-minute games, but we got through it. And the fact that I was down there and got that experience at Roger Dean Chevrolet, got to see the players and interact with them and weave some of those storylines from talking to them into the broadcast really helped. I think once it was over, I felt relieved. I felt like there was a lot of improvement that I could have worked on, but I felt overall pretty proud of myself because the amount of work that I've done in order to get here, it's starting to pay off. And then, now I'm humbling myself in my living room by calling these games on mute to practice over and over and over again to get better, right? Because that's how you do it. And then hopefully I just grow with every single game I do.
Well, I'm so proud of you. It really was an excellent broadcast. Spring training broadcasts are tough. There are like twice as many players. There are like double numbers. Pitchers can come back in and you can like look up and all of a sudden be like, wait, he's back in the game. Right. That's allowed. But you and Brad did a fantastic job. And again, I'm just so proud of you. What an exciting opportunity. And it's going to be great to have another season with you by my side as my partner in crime. We need each other. We know that.
Yeah, absolutely. The girl gang that we have for the Cardinals is so strong, and it's the fact that we can all lean on each other is great. So I really appreciate that, Katie. And also, honestly, for all the young girls watching, like this is something that we didn't really have growing up. So to be able to provide that for them, I got a message from a father who was like, my young daughter was listening to the spring training game and was like, Daddy, there's a female voice calling this game. I could do that too. That literally makes it all worth it.
It does. Absolutely. So this one's for the girls.
Yeah.
Because you just never know. And you might meet your best friends along the way. I know I did. All right, let's talk some Cardinals baseball before we get so emotional and everyone turns off their cameras. Halfway through it, a little bit of news. We're recording this Tuesday night. This episode will go live Wednesday morning, right before the Cardinals will have an update on Jordan Walker, who left Tuesday's split squad game against the Nationals with some left knee pain in the third inning. I'm not in Jupiter. Obviously, that is not a beach behind me. That's my apartment window. I'll be back on Sunday, but watching the broadcast on TV, looked like my first opinion was just that it was a little bit of an awkward route from Jordan. And then looking back at it a second time, you could see his knee kind of get stuck somewhere. Maybe it looked like a divot or a hole. Again, I'm not there, so I'm going off the broadcast. But you could see like a clear wince in his face. You hope it's not anything serious. Obviously, that would be devastating for the Cardinals and Jordan Walker. They did classify it per Cardinals PR as left knee pain. He went and he set for some imaging, and the Cardinals will have an update tomorrow. But according to Derek Gould, who was there in West Palm, said that Ollie Marmol said this was out of an abundance of precaution. Certainly makes sense when you think about how important Jordan Walker is to this club. Alexa, assuming, and we're keeping our fingers crossed, we all know how I feel about Jordan Walker on this podcast. Assuming everything is all right with Jordan, what do you think is going to be big for him this year to succeed?
I mean, I was going to say consistency, and now I'm saying health. It's obviously a big concern if he's not able to be out there on the field. One of the big storylines going into the season is the dramatic improvement that they need to see from Jordan Walker, Nolan Gorman, and Lars Nootbaar, although three of those guys to take a big step forward. And, Ollie Marmol talked about it today when they were discussing it on the broadcast and saying, if those three guys do, we're going to be a really fun team. If they don't, we might not. And he was very frank about it. And, there's really other way to say it or to twist it. Those are the three guys that you really need to have big seasons. So, fingers crossed for Jordan Walker. But I think overall, watching his work in the outfield, and he's worked with Jose Akindo, and he's worked with John Jay, and the different coaches that he's worked with in order to improve himself in the outfield, you've seen remarkable jumps, leaps and bounds throughout his career defensively, because obviously it was a struggle when they first put him out there in the outfield, but watching him improve there, he's going to be a big piece for this outfield this season. And offensively too, obviously they tweaked his swing several times last year, but I do think that there's some consistency with the new hitting coach this year too. And there's a different philosophy, which is basically saying there are several different guys who learn in different ways, and they hear what you're saying to them in a different way as well. And I have to learn that language, Brant Brown, the new hitting coach, says. And when that's the kind of approach that you come to a new team with, which is basically like, I'm going to learn each guy's philosophy and how they hear me, it really creates this kind of culture of community and consistency that I think that Jordan Walker is really going to benefit from. So, fingers crossed that he's okay. But I think both offensively and defensively, he takes a huge step forward this year.
I certainly hope so. I mean, you and I have talked about this at length. Certainly the city of St. Louis has discussed Jordan Walker's up and down roller coaster start to his career. He's just 22 years old, still a lot of potential there. I know there's been a lot of clamor, if you will, over the lack of offense to start the spring. I would like to remind everybody, it is spring. It's okay. Take a deep breath. But I think one thing that was really noteworthy about Jordan Walker was the exit velos. Yeah, he's 2 for 14 coming into today. Not great, not what you want. But the batted ball profile, the consistency of the ball in the air, that's what really matters when we're evaluating Jordan Walker. With Nolan Gorman, on the other hand, what matters is if he's making contact at all. And that's going to take some time too, like you mentioned. Same with Lars Nootbaar, who looked good today, drove in a couple of runs out in West Palm. It all comes down to, look, you have a brand new hitting coach with Brant Brown. And yes, there are some returners, BA, Brandon Allen, Packy Elkins, they returned from last year's hitting coach staff. But it's a different message. It's a different voice, a different communication, like you said. And it's going to take some time to implement all of that into game results. With that being said, what's your big thing for Gorman this year?
Yeah, I mean, for him, we know he has that power. And the fact that, everyone keeps expecting him to figure out these holes in his swing, so to speak, it really does speak to the fact that he is still so young in this game, and everyone's rushing him to a level that we need to pump the brakes on and make sure that there's a level of understanding from his side and the coach's side where everyone's getting on the same page and evaluating what he needs to do and then working towards that. But I think for Nolan Gorman, we know he's capable of these huge swings, these monster, not only numbers, but the fact that he's able to really, put some pressure on an opposing pitcher when you have him in that lineup. It's going to be a situation where if he figures it out, again, it's going to be scary, but when you pair that with a guy like Jordan Walker, where you have both these guys where you need them to grow in different ways, but you need that growth, it does say to them, especially because they're going to get these, reps to these younger guys, and they have this longer leash and this longer runway. It does say to them, we trust in you. We believe in you, and the confidence that this organization is putting in these younger guys to be able to say, you're the future, and we're here to figure that out right now. I think really leaves it up to them, right? It's in Nolan Gorman's hands to figure out exactly what it is in terms of his growth that he wants to work on. But his potential, his ceiling. It's through the roof because he has that huge power. And so just being able to put that all together and making sure that it fits in this lineup, that's going to be something that's really up to him.
It's a sink or swim season for many players, but Jordan Walker and Nolan Gorman specifically, it seems, or at least that's the messaging the Cardinals have gone out there. A lot to talk about with this Cardinals squad still, but first, a message from our friends at Arena Club.
FT fam, if you love ripping packs of cards, there is a modern way to do that now on Arena Club with their slab packs and crats. I know you love ripping slab packs and getting that sweet card that you've always been looking for.
Yeah, and you don't have to go through all the other ones, all the Kratz cards that are in there. Bang, you just get the big one, the one that you're just peeking right around the corner when you open that pack, the one you expect to get.
Also, Arena Club will make you an instant offer for your card based on its market value. You'll get an instant offer of 90% of the estimated value, so you can accept it on the spot, simple, fast, and risk-free. Use that cash to buy more slab packs, and you can get your cards officially graded by Arena Club. So go check it out right now, FT fam. You can get 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/foul and then use the code FOUL. That's arenaclub.com/FOUL. Code FOUL for 20% off your first purchase. Get after it, FT fam.
Alexa,
oh my gosh.
that was
I
good.
love Scott so much. Scott is my brother from another mother. We worked together at MLB Network and we hosted a show called The Rundown, and I miss him every day. He's so excellent at what he does, so chill, and so like you're just hanging out on the couch talking sports. So shout out to Scott and Eric too. Great
Scott's
guys.
the best. Eric's the best. Eric was a real trooper at Cardinals camp. I was a bad teammate. Foul territory came to Jupiter the day I left. So I left them high and dry, and I'm so sorry. Cassie, I owe you one. I'll get you a Fredbird hat. That way you, me, and AJ can match.
That's the way to make up for it.
Yeah, I think so. Totally. So you mentioned a quote from Ollie Marmol today on the broadcast of FanDuel Sports Network Midwest. Crushed it. That I thought was really important. The honesty of, if Newbar, Gorman, and Walker succeed, it's going to be a special team. If they don't, maybe not so hot. And I appreciate that candor because I think we can all see it. No matter how closely you cover the Cardinals, it's clear like these three are going to make or break the Cardinals season. What do you think the ceiling is for this Cardinals team? And just in your opinion, how important are those three guys?
Well, I mean, think about it. They were 6 games out of a playoff spot last year, right? And so obviously it was a tough season. To miss out on the playoffs back-to-back years is not, typical Cardinals baseball. But coming off of a really rough 2023, they decided to shore up what the main issue they believed was, which was their starting pitching, right? So they bring in these veterans, and the veterans end up having a really strong season, but the offense falters. Now, obviously, with Paul Goldschmidt going to the Yankees, that's going to be a huge loss for you. But if you have these younger guys who, and as you saw, Katie, when you walked into the clubhouse, they've changed a lot of their body, mechanics in terms of their biometrics. Mason Wynn gained weight in the offseason, gained muscle. So did Victor Scott. A lot of these guys are changing the way that they eat. They're changing the way that they work out. They care deeply about this Cardinals organization and about having success. And they realize it's all out there in front of them. It's their opportunity for the taking. So now you want to look at the offense, you're taking a look at the lineup, and you're wondering where you're going to get that production from. Well, it really is about these guys stepping up and basically owning their own game to be able to make those, big moves. Listen, to me, the division is kind of wide open. I don't think that anyone in the division really made, monster moves. Yeah, the Brewers are still the Brewers, but you got the Cubs, and they made a couple of additions, but nothing huge that is kind of earth-shattering that says, here we go on paper. It looks like they're running away with the division. I mean, the Cardinals really have a chance if they want to go get it. And, you still have Wilson Contreras, who is such an offensive threat. I think he's going to do excellent work there at first base. He's working with Stubby Clapp and Jose Oquendo. You still, by the way, have Nolan Arenado. Remember, he finished as an MVP finalist just a couple of years ago. I think that being on this team, especially to at least start the year, I mean, we have no idea what's going to happen as the year progresses, but you have a 10-time Gold Glove winner, 8-time All-Star. Nolan Arenado is one of the best players in all of baseball, a future Hall of Famer on your roster. So for me, I think that there's a lot of upside. And with all the talk of, we heard obviously from President of Baseball Operations John Mozeliak this offseason that it was priority 1, 2, and 3 to trade him, right? But that doesn't account for the fact that he's not traded. He's still here, so he's going to make a huge impact. So it's little things like that where I do feel like you can't count this team out. 1, because of the division. 2, because you do have experience. It's not all, young guns who are just doe-eyed looking around trying to figure out the league. They've got, a couple of years or at least a year under their belt to have figured it out. And I think that the hungry mentality that they've displayed so far, and Ollie talks about it, he's like, this is one of my favorite groups this offseason. These guys are ready to get after it. They're absorbing everything like sponges. And for me, that's what I love about managing so much, because I get to relate to a lot of these younger players in a different way. It was a lot of fun for me to be down there and see how that mentality is playing out in the field.
Yeah, you make a ton of good points. And I had a question from an athletic subscriber in a mailbag we're running tomorrow about looking for a silver lining for this club. And I would agree with you. I actually did reference the division and made all the points that you just said because we're just like so alike. But it's true, right? Look, there's a lot of fan apathy and frustration over the mixed messaging of the offseason. We talked about it in last week's episode with AJ Przinsky. The Cardinals, from an organization standpoint, are stuck in the middle. You know what can help change that is the players and the players' performance. And I think there is reason to believe that these players can take multiple strides, aside from the 3 that we've spent most of the episode talking about. Contreras, looks fine at first base. Look, there's going to be some growing pains that we'll fix with reps. And no, he's no Paul Goldschmidt, but that bat alone, I think, is going to make up for it. Nolan Arenado, you want to talk about someone who came in completely different. He's slimmed down. He looks great. Our friend Bernie Miklas told me, look at the bat speed, the difference in the bat speed from Nolan already in just a few Grapefruit League games. Not only that, but his whole swing mechanics looks a little bit, dare I say, like 2022 Nolan Arenado. He looks ready to go. Mason Wynn, is he going to take that next step? I believe so. I think Mason Wynn can solidify himself as the next face of the franchise with another good season. Clearly, they want to build around him. And then you look at the rotation. Sonny Gray is back. He's an ace on almost any club, unless you're the Dodgers when you have like 18 aces anyway, right? And yes, I understand the need and the desire from fans to want to see people like Andre Palante, Michael McGreevy, Quinn Matthews at some point. But the Cardinals believe by setting out with a mostly veteran rotation, they're giving themselves the best chance to get off on the right foot in April because they're relying on experience. And guys like Eric Betty know what they need to do to start the season and start the tone. Look how he started for the White Sox last year. He was an all-star. Miles Michaelis, 2 down years. I understand the fan skepticism there, but he still eats innings, and that's going to be important as you're preserving these young arms, which are most likely going to make up a bulk of the bullpen. And I think if the Cardinals can just hover around 500 for April, that will do a lot in terms of team morale and fan morale. And then maybe we're having a different conversation come May, but they have to get there first. And if you're a player, you can't let the disarray of the organization, the transition, maybe the reset, the maybe not, you can't let that impact you. That's our job as media to talk about. The players can change that narrative themselves just by playing winning baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. And Katie, you make a great point about the pitching in terms of them going with veteran rotation, but they do have these young guys who have kind of made some names for themselves in spring. I mean, first of all, Matthew Liberatore, he's already a name for the Cardinals, but he looks confident as heck out there on the mounds. Like, he just looks ready to go. McGreevy has been really great. I love the work that Palante put in the offseason. Watching these guys, these younger guys too, who are also hungry and could potentially, earn their way into this rotation at some point if something happens, it is really kind of a fun competition to focus on too. So there's so much about this team. And again, if we were talking about, the NL West, I would feel differently about it, but we're not. We're talking about a division that is super winnable, only 6 games out last year. That's made up like that in the spring, and especially because you forget that they didn't have Wilson Contreras, their biggest bat, for a huge chunk last year because he broke his arm, right? So you coulda, woulda, shoulda all day long, right? But because you're going to have a healthy Contreras in that bat in that lineup all season long, fingers crossed, it adds those depth pieces, those, the full round, well-rounded roster that you're looking for from this team. So I'm actually pretty excited. I know people, Cardinals fans, listen, you're used to a lot of success. I get it. But this year, I think it's a let the kids play. And let the kids play is so fun because these kids, they really know what they're doing.
And you know what? When you come into something with your expectations on the floor, it's really hard to be disappointed. So
my expectations are not on the floor. Don't put me on.
You're a believer. You're a believer. Trevor is a believer. I am not quite there, but
we'll get you there.
I think that's just, again, understanding both sides of the frustration from the organization and how it's being run. There are not a lot of organizations that would do this transition year. But the work that's being done in the minor leagues is super important. We have some stuff on that up at The Athletic. Look, I think the right changes are being made in the minor league system. You will eventually see them in the major leagues, ideally, if they do it correctly. And with all the focus on the major leagues this year, you're exactly right about the division. This is not the NL West. This is not the AL East. This is the NL Central. And every year, this is like the cop-out. And fans get frustrated. I get it, because they're like, we're tired of allegedly competing, being gaslit to think we're competing, some of the more dramatic ones, because they're in contention in the NL Central, which is much different than being in contention in the National League in general. But all you have to do is stay relevant, stay in that pack, because you're right, 6 games gets made up like that in baseball. That's why they play 162, so we can have all this drama. Now, if the Cardinals stay in it, and this is such a big hypothetical, and I hate talking about July in March, but if they stay in it, I can absolutely see John Mozeliak saying, my last year, screw that. I would really like to try and compete and see if they can, if playoff baseball can return to Busch Stadium. It's been too long. Alexa, we came around the same time. I think I was 21. You were 22, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I joined covering the Cardinals, at least, I was like, oh, every October, I'm going to be locked in. I'm going to cover postseason baseball. Like, this is going to be great. I grew up a Giants fan, so I loved October. It was the best time. And I've covered 3 playoff games, and all 3 have been losses. I would like to experience winning postseason games at some point. I'm sure you would too.
Yeah, and I got to cover Albert Pujols' home run chase. I got to cover Adam Wainwright and Yadier Molina becoming the all-time winningest battery mates, in MLB history. There have been so many exciting moments here for me working with FanDuel Sports Network and the Cardinals that we want more. But that's just how baseball fans are, and especially Cardinals fans. Like, keep it coming, because this is what this town is built on. It's built on Cardinals baseball. So, let's go out there and have a really fun spring. And when you do have young guys and flashes, I mean, Mason Wynn has a cannon of an arm. He has more defensive run saves than any other shortstop in the entire league. You go out there and watch this guy play, show up to Busch and watch. He's better than anyone else you're going to see. So you do have, elements to this team that are going to kind of, be exciting this year and kind of blow you away in a way that, it's not just an average team being out there and being told like, hey, maybe we'll win, maybe we won't. They're going out there and giving it their all, and they've got some real talent to be able to do it.
I think so. And we're getting closer and closer to figuring out what that opening day roster will look like. The positions that were still a little unclear are the positions that we thought would be all offseason long. The center field battle is fascinating. We talk about this every episode because, here we are on March 4th. Opening day is March 27th. Cardinals are still not really all that close to figuring out how that's going to shake out. The fringe players, if you will, the bench players, because I think the Cardinals pretty much know who's going to be starting where other than center field across the diamond, who's going to take those last spots. I think Alec Burleson is a lock to make the opening day roster, but what's his role going to be? Are the Cardinals going to go with Jose Fermin? Is Thomas Sajacy going to figure out a way to stay on? All these things are exciting. And then once we get over the next 2 weeks, we're going to start piecing it together. Cuts are going to start really meaning things. Games, performances, we're all going to be able to analyze them a little bit more. Do you have anyone that's on your radar to be like the 26th man? Like, who are we not talking about enough that you think has a legitimate chance to make this club?
Luke and Baker. I mean, when that guy crushes, it's really unbelievable. I mean, he's a monster of a human. He's got otherworldly power. And when he swings the bat, it is a no-doubter every time. So potentially Luke and Baker's bat off of the bench, you're talking about you need some power. That could be one for me. But I think overall, kind of watching how this outfield is going to play out, and it's going to be a task for Ollie Marmol to figure out playing time for these younger guys. And then what you put out on a daily basis, offensive-minded, defensive-minded. Gio Newbar in center field is a Tiani Scott situation. Brendan Donovan, time in left field, but he's the Utility Gold Glove Award winner, so you can put him anywhere you want and he'll, shine. You're pretty much good up the middle with, or at least a shortstop with Mason Wynn, and then you got Arenado at third. But kind of watching how Gorman takes some at bats and plays some third base. So it's just going to be very interesting and to me, kind of intriguing, because if you run the same lineup out there every single day, what do we have to talk about, Katie? You know what I mean? So it gives us a little bit of like, hey, so who's playing today? Let's talk about it. Let's figure this out. And, and then it's really the best man, wins. It's a competition. And Ali suggests that every single year. He said, if you play, you're in the lineup, best bat plays, best glove plays. So go out there and earn your time, earn your spot. And go for some victories. I mean, that's really what this team is about in terms of these young guys. They really have, like, as Mason Wynn described it, a bit of an underdog mentality. And I kind of think that's going to serve them this year.
I mean, think about it. When you're a bunch of young guys that haven't really, like, you're big leaguers, and I don't want to diminish that. That's an accomplishment in itself. But as a team, over the last 2 years, the Cardinals haven't really accomplished much of anything except a massive decline in the view of the industry. If you are the young players that are kind of connected to that in the beginning of your career, aren't you mad? Aren't you like, screw this? Like, we're better than this? And I see it when I walk in the clubhouse. I mean, the way that the guys are in there doing their pregame work. I get to the Roger Dean on a good day when I'm running on time around 7:30, 7:45 in the morning. And there are guys doing infield drills with Stubby Clapp, John Jay. I mean, every morning. So they've been there for a while. And then these young guys are some of the last to leave. Yeah, they do their 3 at-bats and leave, but there's no more 5 and fly here. Not even the veterans are doing that. You're seeing Nolan Arenado, Wilson Contreras in Grapefruit League games, getting 3-4 at-bats and leaving in the 7th and 8th in March, like early March. That is usually not the custom for veterans with service time in spring training. So I love all the points you make. I think we were due for some optimism. The great point about Luke and Baker also, because think about how left-handed heavy this roster is. They could certainly benefit from some right-handed bats to accompany Contreras, Arenado, hopefully Walker, and ideally Herrera. So we will see. Still lots to be excited about the next 2 weeks. Like we said, very important. I am looking forward to hearing you call 2 more games at least.
2 more games. Yep.
All right. And you know where to find her. She's at FanDuel Sports Network Midwest. And she's on Cardinal territory. And we were just so thrilled to have her. Alexa, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to do this.
Katie, you crushed this, by the way, as you always do. But thank you so much for having me. This is awesome.
Just trying to be like you. Trevor Rosenthal, he's back at the end of the week. And we have some fun stuff coming ahead. I don't want to get too excited because I don't want to promote it and ruin the surprise, but just trust me, it's worth it. We're back Thursday, I believe. For Alexa Datt, I'm Katie Wu. This is Cardinal Territory. Thank you so much for watching. I think we're going to win like an Emmy or something. That was so good.
Oh my God. Let's put it on the reel.
That was, oh my God, it's still recording. Okay, I'm going to have to fix that.